Presidents of the three biggest police unions in Northern California, San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose, are calling for constructive dialogue in the wake of violent demonstrations against police brutality across the country. In an open letter published on the union's websites, they say those protests have devolved from a legitimate free speech into tasteless vilification of police officers that are threatening their safety. For more, we turn to the KCBS Ring Central Newsline and James Gonzalez, who is the vice president of the San Jose Police Officers Union. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. In the letter, there is a statement in the beginning of the letter that talks about the importance of upholding the Constitution and the right to free speech of the public that police officers have to uphold. How are officers dealing with this? And is that what prompted you to write this letter?
Yeah, these protests are a bit unique in the fact that we're used to facilitating First Amendment protests, but these ones are particularly directed at our profession, at the officers themselves. And we're continuing to see them be hijacked by people who are insistent on introducing violence to these protests, and it's taking away the opportunity for them to have legitimate dialogue. Yeah.
You mentioned in the letter as well that our members and their families have been shaken to the core by the brutal slangs of two New York City police officers and that of one in Florida as well. Talk, if you would, about how that is being processed by the officers. I mean, that's got to be pretty jarring.
It absolutely is. Our officers who are out there facilitating these protests, which are violent and destructive all over the country, have to know that they're going to go home to their families. This holiday season, we have police officers' families who know that their loved ones are out there facilitating these First Amendment protests, and they may not come home. Sitting in their car, they may not even be on the front line. The assassination of these officers should be an outrage. And I think what prompted us to speak out is we've seen the media and elected officials be very quick to second guess and jump to conclusions with law enforcement actions. But when these officers were assassinated, we're not seeing them come and denounce this type of violence. And that absolutely has to happen. Order has to be restored. If our officers don't believe they're going to be able to return home to their families at night, then these rights are at risk for everybody.
So what's the next step then in engaging in, as your letter says, constructive dialogue?
We've from the very beginning of these protests here in our community, we represent some of the most diverse police departments in the nation, and we engaged with our community leaders from the beginning of this as to police practices and what can we do in a positive way. But what we're calling for now is the same community leaders that we reached out to in the beginning to denounce the violence. Remaining silent about these killings of police officers is, in a sense, condoning it. We've seen protesters chanting, we want dead cops. When do we want it now? Those type of things have to be absolutely denounced by the leaders of these protests. In response to the New York killings locally, we didn't see that. What we saw was some of our members of the community call for continued protest despite the death of these officers without condolences or vilifying that violence. It's time for that to stop. It's time for everyone to realize that all lives matter. And it's time to, bring this back to some lawful legal discussions.
Mr. Gonzalez, thank you very much for your time again. James Gonzalez is vice president of the San Jose Police Officers Union.
And the KCBS News Time now, 4:30.